Huh?
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
want the coffee cups
Okay,
here?
no problem. Should be. So,
Okay.
hi. Morning.
Morning.
Yeah, so I'm very happy that we have a short talk with you. There's Gayle.
Hello?
There is
Gayle.
Malcolm. So I think actually it's, two of them are with us with Ginger's program, and I think I appreciate the real intuition and the talents they have bringing anagram now to the business world. And then I've been seeing them more often nowadays. So I want to just spend some time with them talking about the anagram they're doing, the work that you are doing, and also how do you see moving forward after the growth strategy workshop, what we can collaborate, and maybe we'll see you next year for sure.
That'd be
in
great.
China.
So we really
Tell us a little bit about what you do in Australia and how you use the anagram.
well, the process that I guess we've got very focused on, Global Leadership Foundation spends a lot of its time in corporates, in the not-for-profit world, and also in community organisations. Very much focused on leadership development. However, it's interesting in that organisations generally call us in because they want to make a change. And they're very clear about saying this is where we are now and this is where we'd like to be. And as a result of that, we want to do things differently. What often happens is that in that doing things differently, they actually don't know what to do. So we find that we're spending time working with leaders talking about that direction. However, I guess the interesting balance is that when they start to see what it's going to take.
Okay.
I need to talk here? Or
Yeah, you have to talk to Megan. Right? Although you are talking to me, I know. But then it's talking to Megan. That's why we have two persons here.
So go back a bit.
Rewind. No, actually, you're doing good. But then when you start looking at me, then yeah, so we should be talking to Megan, although we are talking to each other.
Okay,
I know.
okay.
I start again?
Well, you
I'll start
can.
again.
Yeah, we'll end it.
Add
We'll end
something on it.
it.
So our experience in the Global
Lấy vô
Leadership
mồi thôi
Foundation
mấy cái.
is that we're very involved in working with organisations in change particularly. But what's interesting for us is that most of our work now is with leaders. What leaders find is in the change that they're making, they often get stuck. They're often in a position of not really knowing what it is that they need to do to change as well. And we often then find that the organisation starts to fail as a result. Not fail so much as not actually achieve what it set out to achieve. So part of the work that we both do is very much engaged in looking at, well, what does it take to actually develop both the leaders in that organisation and the organisation itself.
So part of the work is also around the culture of the organisation. So whilst we might look at leaders, there's also another element that can actually work with or against the change, which is the culture, which is how we do things in the business. So that becomes a real challenge. So that's where we start to look and say, okay, what tools can we use? What can we actually do to develop both leaders and the culture of the organisation? And how do we assess the culture? So this is where the Enneagram and the emotional health levels come in. So whilst Enneagram might be good to identify types, there's something beyond that, which is much more around emotional health levels, which is the dynamics of the organisation and the people in it, how they work together, what's important for them, where they are on this development level. So one of the things we can do then to work with is say, okay, where are you as a leader on these levels? What do we need to do to move you up the levels? What do we need to do to shift the culture of the organisation up the levels? So we spend the majority of our time working more with emotional health levels than anything else. It's probably one of the most critical factors.
And then I heard about your very interesting project about turtle camp. So can you tell a little bit about this?
We work with an Indigenous community in very far north Queensland. The turtle is their totem, so it's a very important part of their culture. And of course, as we all know, turtles across the world are endangered. So we have a project where we go and support that community with the turtle rescue program. We also, though, take leaders into that environment, and it's very interesting to see what happens to leaders, because many of them go, we've just got to fix this. We've got to make sure that they can solve their problems. But as the week goes on, the leaders actually start to see that they're part of the problem, that we actually are part of a whole system, and that in terms of the world, we need to be thinking about our own impact as well as the impact of others. We use both the Enneagram and emotional health levels in that environment as well, because as they start to see that they're impacting, they start to become more conscious of who they are and how they work. So
I think the other thing that's quite important is that because of the environment, we have the opportunity to get people to start to integrate the head, heart and instinct centres. So that's very powerful in itself as far as getting people to be very much more present in the moment, in the here and the now. So
Yeah, I think it's very exciting. A lot of benefit, I think, for China, particularly now we are really going, expanding a lot of things about preservation of the nature, about people really using the earth to march too quickly, and not being aware of it. And I think it's really a lot of things that we see in the long run that your work will benefit.
Potentially the opportunity for you and for us and for China is critical. So I'm sure there's a lot the Indigenous communities can teach us.
So when we are also talking about the development work for Enneagram, regional perspective, so I think we are pretty independent in the past. So, and I know that you are doing some work in Hong Kong with some of the corporate leaders. So how do you see Enneagram as a breaking barrier, a tool of breaking barrier, I think both within the culture of cooperation and with the collaboration we have, how we see Enneagram as a tool beyond really personality types, and how it can really bring all of us together in a conference for next year.
Certainly from our perspective, we've found that the Enneagram is borderless, and having been in Japan for training and in Hong Kong for work and training, we've been exposed this week to a whole lot of, I think there were 12 countries in the room for the Blue Ocean strategy. So for us it's about the Enneagram as a tool that is beyond borders, and we see the potential to work within the Asian region. We're so close, and Australia is forming such strong connections that we can see huge potential for making this a region of great strength.
And I would agree. I think that's one of the things that I really like about using the Enneagram in the cross-cultural sense is we actually start to understand more about not our differences, but what's so much the same. We're actually, as people, not that different regardless of where we come from. So the Enneagram teaches us a lot about how we are like one another, and not necessarily how we are so different from different cultures.
Okay, that's about it.
That's
so
about it.
Hopefully we'll see you
I hope
next
so.
year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.